Hey, I'm making another one of these videos just randomly, no format. I have a few questions written down that I want to cover, but just to share more about TSW, my situation, my plan, what I've learned. But I would always refer to the links that I'm putting in the descriptions of this video or posts or whatever, because this is new to me too, and I'm learning about it as I go. So I would I would reference these websites with, board members from eczema communities and patients who have been going through this for years, and so many other people, doctors also, who are recognizing TSW. They have much better explanation of the entire condition. But just for context, I know that family and friends and whoever's watching aren't going to be going and digging through all of the research and papers and everything necessarily, because I get it, it's not like relevant to you necessarily, but you might want to still know about it a bit as it relates to me. So that's what I'm going to share. So I already shared some things in the last video, but just as a general like overview, what is TSW? It's withdrawal from topical steroids, which means that my skin was addicted to topical steroids at some point, and now I'm in the period afterwards, having stopped taking them completely, of withdrawal. And this looks like a lot of different things when it comes to my symptoms of my skin. Today you can see that I'm quite red and blotchy and patchy. I had a very bad night's sleep last night. It was just, I think something I ate triggered a flare. But in general, it's kind of like the eczema that I used to have, but 10 times worse. And on my worst days, I mean, I should try to take more pictures, but honestly, I don't want to leave the house. I don't want anyone to see me, so I will get used to being a bit more open about that. But like today, I'm in the office. I'm trying not to touch my skin and not to scratch it and all of this, but as you can imagine, if you've ever had an itch, it's quite difficult to refrain from, I guess, comforting yourself in that way, or at least like rubbing the place where you feel uncomfortable. So one question that I wanted to answer is maybe like, where am I affected? Because the pictures that I've shared show like my face, which was very obvious, and one of the worst flares I had when I was traveling in Japan with my mom. So it is my face and definitely my neck, but it's also the inner parts of my arms, and these are very common places for eczema and TSW. The place here where my arm meets like my chest area. So these places where the skin kind of like moves a bit and maybe can trap a bit of heat, and it's like having to be flexible all the time. But of course, like around the wrist area, and you can see that there's quite a lot happening here. The other one's not as bad. Behind the knees, a bit on the inner thigh, which is quite new, and a bit on the belly, a bit on the chest, and that's just kind of where it spreads. So the thing about TSW is that I've noticed it's just made my eczema so much more prevalent all over my body, rather than it just being isolated like this specific part of my arm. Like after taking the topical steroids and after my skin becoming thinned and thinned and thinned, the inflammation is now so big that I think it just spreads like crazy, like wildfire everywhere. So it's really like a full body condition situation. So that's the question of like where I'm affected. Oh, and my scalp, actually, that's maybe one of the most important things to mention, and I always forget to mention it because I've gotten so used to just always being so uncomfortable and touching my scalp and my hair and all of this, but I used topical steroids on my scalp too. Just instead of it being like an ointment or a cream, it was a liquid that I, squeezed in, rubbed around, and it gave me some relief until it didn't. So that maybe brings us into another topic of the treatment that I'm considering and how it would work. Because when it comes to my scalp, it's not really accessible. So I am gonna have to cut my hair, which yeah, it's in a bun right now, but it's quite long. And for now, I have an appointment this week to cut it just short to kind of get used to that. But when I'm in Thailand, which is what I'm planning to do, is go to Thailand for treatment, I'm gonna need to cut it. Like, I don't know about shaving it, but I'm gonna have to cut it short enough so that it's accessible, so that I can actually get the most out of the treatment. So that'll be an adjustment. But the treatment, as I mentioned briefly in the other video, it's called cold atmospheric plasma treatment. It's called CAP for short. And in Thailand, there's a clinic that has been treating TSW patients for over 15 years. So they're aware of this. They know what causes it. They know what triggers it and things to avoid in your environment, because it's not only like diet related, which is really what I've been focused on for the past 5-6 years, but it's also your environment and like the irritants that you're always in contact with. So I could definitely learn more and do a better job of avoiding certain things in my vicinity. And I'm excited to learn more from the other patients at this clinic, as well as the doctors and nurses and everything. But the reason that irritants are such a big deal, avoiding them, is because the treatment it's non-invasive. It's not an injection or something like a cream that you're putting on, but it's a medical device that's usually used for wound healing, because it stimulates the stem cells in your skin. I might have mentioned this in the other video, but it's worth mentioning again. So the most obvious thing is that this isn't like overnight. You don't use the machine and then you're healed the next day. There's a period of time where your skin has to heal, which is what it's being stimulated to do. And then you get another treatment, and then you have another week to heal, and it goes like this for a few months. So the plan is to go to Thailand for a few months and to do this and keep my space irritant free and make sure that I'm not in contact with things I shouldn't be in contact with, so that I can really promote the healing of my skin to get it back at like a level that is tolerable. And why is this important? Because my skin has been thinned so much that when I do get flares and when I do itch or when I do have breakouts, my skin is so thin, it just can't help but like open up and rip and be exposed. And this is because of the quality of my skin right now, having had all this damage from decades of topical steroid usage. So the idea of this treatment is to dramatically reduce the amount of time I have to wait for my skin to just heal on its own and to just get back to like 100%. And instead of waiting and waiting, and in the meantime, it's just harder and harder because I have flares. My skin is then compromised again, and then it gets good again, and then it's just a lot. So the idea for this treatment is to spend like 4-5 months, maybe more, focusing on this healing and doing everything I can to let my skin do what it's supposed to do, with a bit of help. So that's why I really like the idea of this treatment and why I've chosen it, why I'm going for it, because it's natural. It's not trying to suppress something your body does. It's trying to help your body do what it already does, but better. So yeah, instead of rambling more about that, I also had a question. Maybe you're curious, like what causes my flare-ups. And I mean, with eczema, it can be food related. I mean, that's what I've been able to identify the most in my life, and that's why I avoid certain foods. It's still a mystery because, we consume so many things, and sometimes you start to wonder if it's histamine related, which is in lots of different things, like tomatoes, things that you wouldn't necessarily consider. But like last night, had a lot of tomato sauce and the pasta we had for dinner, flared like crazy, had a really bad night. And so in my head, I need to think about, are those two connected? Do I need to not eat tomato sauce all the time, or I don't know. It's like a constant reassessment and just learning more about my body and really treating it like a individual thing, because there's not a one trigger for everyone with eczema or TSW. It's different for everyone. And some people might share common triggers because of how processed the food is in the States or something, or because of the quality of the eggs and the milk and things like this that you're buying, or whatever it is. So for me, I've been able to identify the food triggers. And then cold, dry weather and hot, dry weather, so dry air is also a trigger. I think that's quite obvious because my skin is already very dry. So it's just predisposed to being just so dried out. So weather is a huge one, and usually in these seasons when it's changing from one season to the other, right now we're going into winter, it's just makes everything a bit worse. Also, materials are very, very important, and I've known this since I was a kid. When I was at friends' houses, I couldn't really like stay through the night because I was so uncomfortable with like the polyester sheets or covers or whatever. So cotton is just the best for me. And there's other things that are also okay like during the day, but if I'm sleeping with materials that are just too abrasive, then it's too much. Yeah, so that's kind of it. I'm probably forgetting something, but I think things like sauna is kind of obvious. It's drying out your skin. And for a minute, I was trying to convince myself that it was fine and it was good because I was sweating, toxins, whatever. But at the end of the day, it really just is a zap to my skin, and it just, you know, strips the moisture. And since my skin barrier is not strong, it just doesn't work. All the oils get wiped out, and then I need to moisturize, and I'm trying not to moisturize too much because your skin can also get dependent on moisturizers. So yes, things like this I need to watch out for, like chlorine and pools. And like I said, I could keep going on. But the last thing, which I already talked about a little bit, was my plan. And that is to go to Thailand, to Bangkok specifically, to this clinic for CAP treatment. And so I have bought my ticket thanks to the people that have donated already to my GoFundMe. I'm very appreciative of like the response I've gotten, not only with the help financially, but people reaching out to me and saying, hey, like I saw your video, or my sister's friend saw your video, or a colleague, or whoever it is, and they, you know, might be struggling with TSW and they might want to look into this. Because when you don't have a diagnosis and you don't know what's going on, you're just driving yourself crazy all the time. So I'm just trying to put this out there. And if you care about me, you know, maybe you care about the details, but if you just care about helping people close to you, you know, who might be going through this, you could just share a link to the websites I'm putting in most of these video descriptions, so that they could at least kind of explore, maybe this is what they're dealing with, maybe it's not, because not everyone has withdrawals, because not everyone gets addicted to topical steroids. Their skin is just different. Everyone is different. But if there's a way that someone could come across this information sooner rather than later, instead of continuing to use topical steroids, even though they have this gut feeling like their symptoms are getting worse and worse, and there's a period of time when it's okay and actually your skin's doing really good for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then everything comes back just 10 times worse, and the cycle continues, and you keep upping the dose or the potency of the steroids until, you know, you have to find other means. You have to find like this injectable type of pharmaceutical drug, and it's just endless, and you're suffering. So if there's a way that you can help, if you don't, or if you're not able to like donate financially, I understand. Really, I just want people to start talking about this. So if there's a conversation you're having with someone and someone brings up, oh yeah, my eczema, blah, 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 or, you know, I don't know. I don't know the situations, but that's an opportunity to kind of raise the topic and just see and start a conversation, and that's how things get recognized. So it's really patient up or like sufferer up right now, trying to spread awareness until the medical professionals are ready to get on board and help us out. But for now, it's up to us. It's up to you guys, me, and everyone. So I should stop. I can't even speak anymore. I'm like fumbling with my words. So I'm gonna go get some lunch, keep myself fed and healthy and hopefully in a good mood despite the discomfort, because that's really the only thing that gets me through. So have a good day. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions, please let me know. There's probably lots of other things that I forget while I'm making these unplanned, rambly videos. So ciao for now.